The kingdom of Janumi sat in the heart of West Africa, surrounded by lush green land, massive forests, and rivers that ran like lifelines through the earth. It was like a natural paradise. The kingdom's rich soil didn't just feed the people, it fed the land itself, the nature around it, and the spirit of its people. The rivers brought life to every corner, making the land fertile and allowing the people to live off the bounty of their harvests. The people lived in harmony with nature, holding tight to the cultural teachings passed down from their ancestors. Justice and peace weren't just ideals, they were a way of life in this prosperous land. The capital city was built along a great river, rising beneath the shade of giant trees. It had always been famous for its beautiful buildings and rich culture. But it wasn't just the political center, it shaped the daily life of everyone in the kingdom. Kojo and Ekundayo were born as the twin sons of King Nkrumah, raised to be the heirs to his legacy. Even as a baby, Kojo was seen as a symbol of wisdom and strength by the people. What his father expected from him wasn't just to rule, it was to protect the balance of nature and bring peace and harmony to their people. Kojo's leadership came not just from duty, but from a natural sense of wisdom and depth within him. King Nkrumah ruled his people with love and a deep, grounded wisdom. He always said that the real power of justice and equality came from the faith and trust of the people. The kingdom's strength wasn't just in its wealth, it was in its culture, in how tightly its people were bound together. Their society was never about riches alone. It was about unity, different communities coming together with a shared purpose and vision. But there were certain rules that had shaped the kingdom's path for generations, rules that didn't change. Kojo and Ekundayo's fate had been written long ago. Only one of them could ascend the throne. Over time, that rule started to feel more like a prophecy, something that shaped how everyone saw the future of the kingdom. Kojo, the calmer and wiser of the two, had always been their father's favorite. The people saw him as the rightful leader. They trusted him, but Ekundayo couldn't accept that. Deep down, he believed the throne should be his. Ekundayo wasn't any less strong or brave than Kojo, but being constantly overshadowed by his brother in the eyes of the people and their father had built up a deep resentment inside him. The fact that Kojo had been chosen stirred a growing unrest in Ekundayo's heart. His desire for power kept intensifying. Everyone's trust in Kojo had made him the obvious favorite, but Ekundayo couldn't accept that. Deep down, he believed Kojo didn't truly deserve the throne. From a young age, Kojo had tried to model himself after their father, not through force, but through wisdom. His sense of leadership wasn't just about ruling the kingdom. It came from really listening to people and believing in fairness and equality. That mindset brought Kojo peace and earned him deep respect from the people. But for Ekundayo, watching all that unfold only fed the storm building inside him. He saw their father's decision as unfair. To him, leadership shouldn't just fall on Kojo, it should be his too. Then one morning, a prophecy from the temple rocked the kingdom. It predicted that tension would rise between the brothers, ending with only one of them taking the throne. The prophecy hit the people hard. While many still believed Kojo was the right choice, it lit a fire of anger in Ekundayo. He couldn't shake his obsession with taking control. No matter how much the people trusted Kojo, Ekundayo kept falling deeper into his frustration and jealousy. That's when the whispers in his mind turned into actual plans. He started plotting in secret. The envy inside him grew stronger, pulling him further into a dangerous scheme. Kojo's rise to power only fueled his dark ambition. One evening, everything changed during a tense conversation at the sacred grounds of the royal temple. Kojo had been trying, again, to reach out to his brother to find some common ground, but Ekundayo was restless. Part of him wanted to stand beside Kojo, but a bigger part craved more power. Kojo spoke honestly, saying, "Ekundayo, this kingdom is ours. Someday we'll lead it together, but the people's trust real leadership, that's what matters." Ekundayo didn't hear the sincerity. His hunger for power drowned it out. He scoffed, "Kojo, someone like you shouldn't be leading our people. You're not fit to rule." He just couldn't accept the peace and strength in his brother's eyes. That bitterness eventually pushed Ekundayo to make a dangerous decision. Kojo's growing influence, to him, was a threat to the balance of the kingdom and to his own shot at power, so he gave in to the jealousy. One night, it led him into a forbidden deal. He made a pact with a forest spirit that promised him the strength to kill Kojo for a heavy price. The kingdom was in turmoil, with Kojo being chosen as the favored one and Ekundayo drowning in jealousy. The tension between them kept growing worse by the day. Ekundayo saw Kojo's selection to lead as nothing short of betrayal. The anger and envy festering inside him had pushed him down a dark path. While the people saw Kojo as a worthy leader-wise, calm, and just Ekundayo believed that love and loyalty were undeserved, and he was determined to take power for himself, one way or another. Desperate to gain the upper hand, Ekundayo decided to seek help from a forbidden forest spirit. The spirits offered him a secret deal power to take Kojo down and rule the kingdom alone. But the cost was high. His soul would be darkened. Blinded by his hunger for control and vengeance, Ekundayo agreed. He didn't care about the price, he just wanted what he believed was his. One night, without Kojo suspecting a thing, Ekundayo began the preparations for a dark ritual. On the night of the ceremony, his rage and envy burned brighter than ever, fueling the darkness in his heart. The drink meant for Kojo had been laced with poison, and when Ekundayo handed it to him during the ritual, there was no hesitation, just a cold, determined look in his eyes. This was the night he'd end it. At first, Kojo felt nothing after taking the drink, but then, slowly, a chill crept through his body, and his strength began to fade. His vision blurred, his balance faltered. The powerful energy he carried inside was slipping away. With confusion and disbelief in his eyes, he looked at his brother. "Ekundayo, what are you doing?" he whispered. But Ekundayo didn't say a word, he just gave a chilling smile. Kojo tried to summon his strength, but his limbs grew heavy. The darkness inside him responded to the betrayal, and as his knees buckled, Kojo collapsed to the ground, still staring at his brother in shock. Kojo's fall gave Ekundayo a Russia-twisted sense of victory. Watching his brother go down wasn't just an end in it, felt like a whole new beginning. He left Kojo there, completing his dark deal. But even with everything he wanted now in his grasp, Ekundayo didn't feel the relief he expected. Sure, he was the only heir left. He had it all. But the anger and jealousy that had pushed him this far didn't fade. Instead, they left a deep emptiness behind. He might have had the power now, but that hollow feeling kept growing inside him. News of Kojo's death sent a wave of fear and uncertainty through the kingdom. When the people heard what had happened, a heavy silence fell over them. They had lost their fair, wise leader, and now Ekundayo sat on the throne, ruling alone. But under his rule, darkness spread fast. No matter how much he tried to act like a just king, he had lost his connection to nature, and the people were starting to feel the effects. As Ekundayo took more control, the spirits of nature started to turn against him. The price of killing Kojo wasn't just a burden on Ekundayo's soul, it shook the balance of the land itself. The earth began to dry up, the rivers grew murky, and the once rich soil turned barren. His rule brought chaos, and that chaos dragged the people deeper into darkness. Kojo's body was laid to rest with the proper rituals. His spirit had moved on to the skies above, but in the hearts of the people, he was still very much alive. What they didn't know was that Kojo's soul never lost its bond with nature. Quietly, patiently, he was preparing to return. The kingdom now lost in Ekundayo's shadow would need to be ready. The true king was waiting, feeling the pull of the nature spirits guiding him back home. Kojo's strength hadn't died with his body. His connection to the earth had protected his spirit, keeping it alive. During his years beyond the living world, nature had gifted him with hidden wisdom and power, and now, the time to return to set things right was drawing near. After his death, Kojo's spirit didn't vanish, it rose far beyond the lands of the kingdom, up into the skies. While the world believed he was gone, his mind had only grown sharper during his years in exile. His soul, his inner strength, they had survived. Everyone back home had mourned him, said their goodbyes, and moved on. But Kojo's spirit stayed alive, kept going thanks to his bond with nature and the strength of his ancestors. Up in the skies, he spent his time learning everything he needed to return. He worked to master his true power, his wisdom, and prepare for the moment he could take back what was rightfully his. One morning, as the sun rose, Kojo opened his eyes on the peak of a mountain. As soon as he woke, he felt Ith wasn't just alive, he was part of the earth itself. The journey he had taken in his mind, through his spirit, had brought him to a place where he truly believed he had all the strength he needed to return to his kingdom. Years before, Kojo had been gifted with magical abilities through his connection to nature and the wisdom passed down from his ancestors. Their voices had never left him, they guided him still, whispering the path forward for the sake of his people. Kojo carried a deep calm inside him. He had started to understand the difference between the past and the present. The spirits of nature reminded him over and over, be patient, be kind, lead with compassion. That inner clarity would guide him not just in using his strength, but in choosing when and how to use it. He knew now, real leadership wasn't about force. And even though he had learned patience over the years, he still had to keep his anger in check. One day, while walking deep in nature, Kojo came across an old sage. The man's eyes held a kind of peace that only came with wisdom. Kojo immediately felt like this stranger had something to teach him, something important. As the elder approached, he said, "Your time has come. But remember, your power isn't just for you. It has to be for your people. Power in the right hands is what makes a true leader." That was it. Those words lit something in Kojo, something final. The spirits of his ancestors and the natural world had been preparing him all along, feeding him strength, reminding him what mattered. And now, his desire to lead wasn't just about reclaiming a throne, it was about justice. It was about love for his people. And that love was growing stronger every day. After years of solitude and a deeply spiritual journey, Kojo had finally formed a powerful connection with the spirits of nature. Through this bond, he began to truly feel the strength that lived within him. His spiritual guides had shown him ancient rituals, taught him how to speak the language of the earth. He could feel his power flowing through every tree, every gust of wind, every stone underfoot. The spirits had revealed how to harness the energy of nature without disturbing its balance. With that knowledge, Kojo started breaking down every obstacle standing between him and his path as a leader. He had learned what power and wisdom really co-stand, that power should always be used in harmony with nature. One night, while meditating deep in the heart of a vast forest, the spirits of nature appeared to Kojo one last time. During their meeting, something inside him began to awaken an old force, buried deep. The trees, the wind, the chirping of birds, every piece of nature was pointing him back toward his kingdom. His ancestors were right there too, guiding him step by step, helping him find the path back. Kojo had made mistakes in the past, and he understood now real leadership came with knowing the price of using power. And he was ready to lead with that understanding. Back in the kingdom, things had only gotten worse. Ekundayo's rule had plunged the land into darkness. The people were suffering, living in fear and poverty. Ekundayo had broken his bond with nature, and in return, the spirits began to turn on him. Just as they empowered Kojo, they resisted Ekundayo, pushing back against the destruction he'd brought. That's when Kojo knew it was time to return. Time to restore balance, not just for the land, but for the people. As he watched the sunrise one morning, Kojo felt the energy rise inside him one last time. With the patience he had learned from nature and the strength passed down from his ancestors, he knew he was ready. This time, he wouldn't return just as a warrior or a prince. He was coming back as a true Letera man worthy of his people's trust and love. The solar eclipse marked the moment that would decide the kingdom's fate. Kojo could feel the power within him growing stronger with each passing minute, guided by the spirits of nature and his ancestors. Years of exile had sharpened him mentally and spiritually. His strength and wisdom weren't just tools of leadership. They were rooted in a deep love for his people and a profound sense of responsibility to protect them. As he walked toward the temple, Kojo could feel his connection with nature getting deeper with every step. The temple, the heart of the kingdom, was where everything would come to a head. Ekundayo's dark reign had thrown the kingdom out of balance, leading the people into a future with no light. Kojo was determined to face his brother one last time. The compassion and patience he had learned gave him more than just strength. They gave him the clarity to make the right choices. Returning to the kingdom wasn't about power for Kojo. It was his chance to prove that he was the kind of leader his people truly needed. By the time the eclipse began, Kojo had reached the temple. It was the spiritual heart of the kingdom, and deep down, he knew everything had to end here. As he entered quietly, the spirits of nature lit his path. His bond with nature brought forth the true strength of his ancestors. Inside that sacred place, Ekundayo's dark desires would come face to face with the power of the spirits and the legacy of their bloodline. Walking toward the center of the temple, Kojo's eyes were filled with purpose and love. Being the rightful ruler wasn't about sitting on a throne, it was about guiding his people with wisdom and heart. Kojo didn't want power for himself. What he wanted was peace and prosperity for his people. That was the kind of leader he was born to be. Deep in the temple, Ekundayo finally caught sight of Kojo. His eyes were filled with fear and rage. He still couldn't accept his brother's strength, his leadership, or the power Kojo now carried. To Ekundayo, Kojo was still the enemy. But when he looked into his brother's eyes, he didn't just see power, he saw the light of someone who had truly come back transformed. When Ekundayo tried to take Kojo's life before, he thought it would be the end. But now, seeing that light in Kojo's eyes, he knew it was the beginning of the end for the darkness inside him. Ekundayo made one last attempt to resist, but the fear inside him kept growing. Kojo stood his ground, calm, and steady, ready to face his brother not with anger, but with peace in his heart. "You'll never take my place, Kojo," Ekundayo said, his eyes dark with menace. "This kingdom is mine." His words lit a fire inside Kojo, a spark of true leadership rising to the surface. Kojo gave his brother one last chance. "Ekundayo, I don't want to fight you, but the darkness inside you is slowly killing you. If I fight you now, I could lose my people." Kojo stood for what was right, holding on to patience and truth, trying to save his brother from being lost forever. But Ekundayo wasn't listening. He stepped forward aggressively. Kojo stayed still, calm and steady, and for a moment, he saw something shift in his brother's eyes: regret, pain. Ekundayo was battling the darkness inside him. Seeing Kojo standing there, strong and peaceful, forced him to recognize real leadership. Kojo's strength wasn't just physical, it came from deep within. When Kojo and the spirits of nature united their power, it hit Ekundayo like a wave. A burst of energy surrounded him, and the spirits began to enter his mind. They weren't attacking, they were cleansing. The shadows inside him started to disappear. Eventually, Ekundayo dropped to his knees, looked up at Kojo, and with a broken voice said, "Forgive me, brother." Kojo looked at him with deep love and compassion. "I forgive you, Ekundayo," he said. "But if we're going to rebuild this kingdom together, you have to stand by the decisions that will heal our people." That moment ended the darkness within Ekundayo. He had finally found his way back to the light. Under Kojo's leadership, the kingdom began to heal. The spirits of nature supported him, and balance returned to the land. The fields grew green again, the rivers flowed clear, and the people finally had hope. Kojo took his place as king not with pride, but with purpose, serving his people with heart and humility. And when he looked into Ekundayo's eyes one last time, they both knew what they had to do. Together, they brought justice back to the kingdom. And Ekundayo, no longer lost to darkness, stood by Kojo's side ready to truly serve his people. Hey, if you liked this story, make sure to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. Your support means the world to us and helps us keep these stories coming. Thanks so much for watching.